We have been watching all of the pieces falling into place, especially around core pieces of the financial system in and around the US. One of the core pieces that fell into place just recently was the Federal Reserve clearing a massive obstacle for the big banks. This was a big one, and we have here, of course, just to keep you guys in the loop, big news from the Federal Reserve today. It's withdrawing its 2023 guidance that effectively blocked uninsured banks from becoming Fed members and engaging in crypto. So this opened up the door for major banks that were in and around the crypto space to essentially, get unblocked from becoming Fed members. This is definitely big, and it's great to see. And it's also another clear insight on the fact that, crypto is becoming more, connected to the traditional banking system than ever before. Now, we thought this was big. Then we got the FDIC confirmation. Then we also got the OCC confirmation. But then we just got another big update on the 19th, which was, of course, the Fed is requesting public feedback on a proposed skinny master account, aka a limited purpose alternative to a full master account that would allow eligible firms to clear and settle payments on Fed rails without interest, Fed credit, or unlimited balances. The idea was first floated by Fed Governor Christopher Waller, which, by the way, is very pro-crypto, in October. Comment period ends 45 days after publication in the Federal Register. Now, why is this important? Well, because, number one, we know that Ripple applied for a Fed master account back in July. This is right around the same exact time that they applied for their national bank charter from the OCC. Now, they did get that conditional approval. We're still waiting on full approval, which I would assume that we get that probably within the first quarter of 2026, probably by the end of January. And then the Fed master account, it kind of feels as if we're getting closer to the Fed master account, applications getting fully approved as well. Why do I say that? Because this is very similar to what we got from the OCC. Everyone was applying for a national bank charter license from the OCC. Then the OCC started to approve crypto in a big way, give the green light across the board. And then we got that full on approval of multiple, licenses for a national bank charter. This is the same similar situation. So I would argue, again, by the end of quarter one, Ripple will most likely have a Fed master account. It's going to be a huge catalyst. It's going to be definitely a big update. But the main thing that I'm looking at here, I'm not looking at price action. I don't care about that. The main thing that I'm looking at is how this allows Ripple to 100% be a piece of the US banking system. How? Well, because we have a breakdown from Brad Garlinghouse. If they get that Fed master account approval, okay, this would allow access to hold ROUSD reserves directly with the Fed and provide an additional layer of security to future-proof trust in ROUSD. This would be one of the biggest updates around ROUSD, and it would also give that clear green light that ROUSD is operating on a completely different, playing field. I know that everyone is always looking at ROUSD compared to like Tether. I think that you can't even compare the two at this point. USDT can't even operate in the US. So I don't even compare these two anymore. I do, however, compare ROUSD back to USDC. And if we see that Fed master account approval for Ripple and the Fed starts to hold ROUSD reserves, that's going to be a huge step for Ripple. In fact, institutional players would be more obligated to utilize ROUSD within their internal systems because, again, they have that clear additional layer of security with the Fed involved. This would be huge. Now, on top of this, we did get a major update around a much larger discussion, which is, of course, Clarity. Now, if you guys do remember, Eleanor Tourette did update us on the 15th that major players from the space were meeting with the banking GOP, talking about the market structure markup this year. It was with Chairman Scott. And this is definitely something that we have to focus on because market structure and clarity are two of the biggest bills here. And, we need them. We need them in place. We need full-on clarity. We need regulations. However, we still need to ensure that these are not going to constrict any piece of the crypto space, specifically DeFi. Crypto exchanges are not safe. It does not matter the size of the exchange either. Bybit, the fourth largest crypto exchange by trading volume, recorded one of the largest crypto hacks in history back in February, where $1.4 billion was stolen. And if we're looking at some of the top 10 crypto hacks in history, most of these are resulting from major exchanges. So where do we store our crypto outside of cold storage devices? Well, iTrust Capital offers premium custody accounts, which is one of the safest places to store your crypto because these are fully closed loop systems, which are designed to isolate and protect assets. And the best part about this is that if you are holding digital assets on their platform, they can only be withdrawn in USD linked to a US bank account, which means no external wallet connections can happen, which reduces the exposure to phishing or unauthorized transfers. So if you guys do want to tap into one of the safest places to lock up your crypto, you could sign up utilizing my link down in the description below right now, where you deposit $1,000 and you get a free $100 funding bonus today. Now, anyone that had hopes of this passing in 2025, the main thing that I've always said was I don't think that it happens in 2025, especially even with the government shutdown. If you guys do remember, I was talking about how the government shutdown is probably going to push this into 2026. Even with that shutdown ending, it still is looking like 2026 is going to be the time frame for this. We did get the update that the Clarity Act has been delayed until 2026. This was on CNBC. Check it out.
Bitcoin bouncing today along with the equity markets, though hopes for progress on crypto regulation hitting a roadblock this week as a key hearing gets punted into the new year. Emily Wilkins joins us. She has that story. Emily.
Hey, David. Well, yeah, look, banking CEOs, crypto groups, they've been flooding Capitol Hill in recent weeks as senators are trying to come closer to an agreement on when to classify crypto as a security and when to classify it as a commodity and how to prevent crypto from being used for illegal activities. Yet, lawmakers I spoke to leaving a bipartisan meeting yesterday said there is still work to be done.
We're making progress, but we're not, it's clear to me anyway, that we're not there yet.
That's Senator John Kennedy. He's a member of the Banking Committee that initially hoped to mark up the bill this month, but that has now been pushed back yet again. Issues remained, and a tentative vote on the bill that lawmakers hope to take this month could be going now until January. Remaining issues include whether top government officials like President Trump and his family should be able to profit from crypto ventures while they are in office. Another ongoing debate is to what degree decentralized finance should be regulated. And there's also a battle brewing between banks and crypto over interest payments. Now, stablecoin issuers, they are banned from paying interest to customers, but they can pay rewards that look a lot like interest, which banks argue is too similar.
So yeah, there's a lot to be planned around this, right? If we're going back to that screenshot, yeah, we need to see if government officials can profit from crypto while in office. This is kind of very similar to what's been happening even with stocks, right? They want to kind of cut congressional members off and politicians from being able to trade stocks while in office or while a family member is in office as well. But it seems as though it's the same thing here happening with crypto. And then also DeFi. DeFi is definitely a big focus here. And then also what interest like stablecoin rewards would look like, which by the way, the banks are trying to fight that as much as possible. Why? Well, we already know why. It will completely affect their business model. But, main thing that I'm looking at here is there's going to be a lot of discussions. It's hard to say if we're going to see this passed by the end of January. A lot of people are hopeful by the end of January. It's hard to say with all this stuff that they're, talking about and negotiating about. It could be the end of Q1. I would say the latest. Now, we did hear from Brian Armstrong as well. He said that it's likely that the Market Structure Clarity Act will pass early next year. I'd say crypto is actually the most bipartisan issue in DC right now.
I'd say crypto is actually probably the most bipartisan issue in DC right now. And about 90% of the text of those drafts, in my view, has been agreed upon. So there's a few details to get worked out, but it sounds like they really want to push for Senate committee votes maybe in early next year. I'd say
So he is saying that 90% of it is worked out, but I have a hard time believing that, especially with, the last pieces here that need to be negotiated. But we have been hearing about January. Everyone's been telling us January. David Sachs just said January as well. We had a great call today with Chairman Tim Scott and John Boozman, who confirmed that a markup for clarity is coming in January. Thanks to their leadership, as well as French Hill and Congressman GT in the House, we are closer than ever to passing the landmark crypto market structure legislation that President Trump has called for. We look forward to finishing the job in January. Now, I'm hopeful that it does, get fully passed by the end of January if everything is worked out. But it's hard to say for certain if that's going to be the case. We also know that Ripple has been a part of this since, the early negotiation phase. And talking about that, Reese Merrick actually from Ripple did highlight why this is very important. We have here, imagine the growth in crypto when you unlock, the U.S. The U.S. is the world's largest economy, who contributes 26% to global GDP, now crossing the $30 trillion mark. To give you a sense of its scale, the US's GDP is now larger than the economies of China, Germany, and Japan combined. So, yeah, I mean, if we're looking into this, the US embracing crypto in a much larger way than ever before is clear, right? It's a clear view of what to expect going forward. In 2026, whether or not we get clarity, I think that regardless, 2026 is going to be the year where crypto does get regulated. But, the main thing that I'm looking at here is just the green lights across the board telling us that crypto is here to stay. Crypto is going to be much larger, and we're moving away from what crypto originally was, which was basically a, degen breeding ground for, casino gambling, if you will. Everyone was looking into what coin is going to 100x or 1000x, jumping into meme coin and that meme coin, instead of looking at utility. And I think that that's where almost, everyone went wrong going into the end of 2024, because the end of 2024 gave us a clear insight that, some of the largest movers in this space were utility-based projects. Everyone that was sitting on the sidelines holding meme coins and, these coins that had no value, well, most of them never even witnessed a big jump in value. But XRP surged massively, HBAR surged massively. All of these utility-based projects surged because, again, we're starting to see that clear view where, we're moving away from hype and speculation to a much more mature, legitimate asset class where utility will be the driver. And I think that that's so valuable to look into. And then also, of course, Scott Bessent, breaking. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says we are removing all regulatory obstacles for crypto. Coinbase, Ripple, and A16Z already in meetings with Senator Tim Scott, working on the market structure bill. Regulatory clarity coming faster than expected. Check it out.
We will take a close look at regulatory impediments to blockchain, stablecoins, and new payment systems. And we will consider reforms to unleash the awesome power of the American capital markets. Americans deserve a financial services industry that works for all Americans, including and especially Main Street.
So yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think that it's faster than expected. However, I will say that this is being worked on, and it is a full on, focus of this current, admin. We know that crypto has been at the, top of the pedestal for, being a very urgent topic to address and also get right. We know that this has been, a 100% priority from this admin. And I think going forward, it's still going to be that. But it's interesting that this is all happening right around the same exact time that Ripple did get that conditional approval from the OCC to charter Ripple National Trust Bank. And we also now have the Fed clearing way for what seems as though the Fed master account side of things. So I would assume that we're most likely going to get full-on approval from the OCC regarding Ripple's national bank charter license, on top of approval for the Fed master account, on top, of course, of clarity for crypto. And I think all of this is most likely going to be aligned by the end of, quarter two. So I think that we most likely get clarity by the end of quarter one. I think in quarter two, we most likely get the Fed master account. In quarter one, we most likely get the charter license as well, get fully approved. It's hard to say on some of these things because I wish and I would hope that by the end of quarter one, we see all of it If that's the case, that's going to be a huge catalyst for, Ripple, even XRP as well. But it's hard to say for certain if that's going to be the case. I mean, I've seen these things stretch on for quite some time, especially with delays and delays and delays. I'm hopeful by the end of Q1 we see all of it get approved, but the main thing that we're looking at here isn't so much the time frame, it's so much how all of this is, being addressed and talked about at the same exact time. I mean, almost everything has been aligned perfectly. And we know that Ripple is in these discussions. They are a part of the negotiating plan as well. So, I'm hopeful that going into 2026, we're going to see some pretty big updates happening around, some of these key things that Ripple has been applying for, but also some of the core pieces of what Ripple's original view is. And that's, of course, the Internet of Values. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video.